Meantime, Meghan Markle's latest podcast launch has been charmingly described as stomach-turning after she received scathing criticism over her narcissistic Netflix series.
Just when you thought it was over on either one pops up Hollywood icon, Tom Cruise, stunned audiences on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert by savagely mocking. Meghan Markle's latest vanity project, her podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder in a Moment That Has Since Gone Viral. Cruz sarcastically tore into the cringe-worthy tone, self-absorbed storytelling, and performative victimhood that Mark's series has become notorious for his comedic jabs laced with brutal truth left. The audience in stitches
Did manage to chart in the top 10 in the US and Canada, I should stress, below everywhere else. It's a far cry from her Joe Rogan domination. And I just want to state for the record that I predicted that. I said there's going to be no Joe Rogan.
And Meghan reportedly fuming behind closed doors. What was meant to be a comeback for the Duchess has now spiraled into yet another PR catastrophe. Hollywood royalty, just torpedoed. Meghan Markle's latest ego-driven venture. And this time it wasn't a tabloid. It was Tom Cruise live on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. What started as a cheeky joke has spiraled into a humiliating public unraveling of Meghan's brand new podcast. Confessions of a Female Founder.
Reviews for Confessions of a Female Founder are in, and if Meghan Googles herself as much as we know she does, she will not be happy with them.
Critically and socially, Mark's podcast has been met with a less than stellar reception. What was supposed to be her bold media comeback has instead turned into a viral roast, and Meghan is reportedly seething. It all began innocently enough. Tom Cruise, the action legend himself, appeared on The Late Show to promote his latest project, but during a segment where Stephen Colbert asked Cruz about recent podcasts, he'd listened to Cruz. Didn't hesitate with that iconic smirk, he dropped the hammer. I tried listening to Confessions of a Female Founder, but I had to pull the eject lever faster than in Top Gun. The audience erupted in laughter. Colbert chuckled, adding fuel to the fire.
That Wilford didn't love school and that she wishes she hadn't worked so hard. Critic Rachel RSD from The Guardian criticized the show as sycophantic and stomach-turning, saying it's hardly a manual of specific constructive business advice.
You mean the one where she spends 40 minutes talking about adversity? From her Montecito mansion, Cruz kept going, miming himself, struggling through the podcast while pretending to reach for a parachute. It wasn't just a jab, it was an open mockery of Meghan's entire media persona, overly dramatic, out of touch, and obsessed with her own victimhood. And the joke hit a nerve because it's grounded in truth. Confessions of a Female Founder, despite a multi-million-dollar promotional campaign and Meghan Star Power, has been a massive flop. It failed to enter the top 100 charts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. Not just in the US, even in the UK and Canada, where Meghan still has name recognition. The podcast is languishing. Critics haven't been kind either. The Guardian called it self-indulgent therapy disguised as activism. The Telegraph compared its tone to a duchess cosplaying as a startup guru, and the Times simply declared it a cringe fest in expensive packaging. Every episode sounds like a TED Talk delivered by someone who just discovered LinkedIn and thinks hashtags are a personality.
Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H. What could it be? A mystery for the eighth letter of the alphabet, and H is the eighth letter of the alphabet. 8 plus 13 is 20.
Meghan is now losing the demographic. She depends on the most progressive women and feminist media outlets like Bustle. The Cut and even NPR have started to turn. NPR's culture critic described the podcast as emotionally manipulative and narratively hollow. Another feminist blogger wrote, "If Meghan is a female founder, then I'm a female astronaut. What is she founding? Self-pity."
Cannot stop talking about everyone's favorite troubled royal twosome, Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. But also Meghan and Harry, who have dragged Britain into what some are calling Megxit, but that I call herabdication.
This is catastrophic for Meghan. For years, she positioned herself as a feminist icon, a modern woman challenging the establishment, but Confessions has exposed the hollowness behind the facade. Rather than lifting up female voices, the show centers Meghan's emotional baggage, cloaked in buzzwords like empowerment, resilience, and authenticity. And let's be honest.
Now, we all have our theories, of course. Here's mine. I assumed it was for the obvious reason. M is the 13th letter of the alphabet, and H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. 8 plus 13 is 20.
You are losing the NPR crowd. You've lost the very audience that once had your back. But the most telling sign Hollywood itself is done with Meghan Markle. Tom Cruise didn't just crack a joke, he said out loud. What many in the entertainment industry have whispered for years, that Meghan is more brand than substance, that her stories are curated, sanitized, and spun for sympathy, and that behind the glitz, there's no compelling narrative. Just grievance after grievance. Variety recently published an anonymous quote from a senior studio executive who said,
In the 80s, I dated a very famous woman whose identity I will never reveal and only ever refer to her using our secret nickname, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher.
So done with the prove it game.
The music is
And if
very
you can't see it, I can't.
she wants to be Oprah without doing the work. Meghan keeps selling her struggle, but no one's buying it anymore. Colbert's audience didn't just laugh because Tom Cruise is funny. They laughed because they're tired of the constant drama, the royal victim narratives, and the performative feminism. Meghan's latest media disaster just confirmed what many already suspected. She's not interested in empowering others. She's interested in controlling the narrative around herself and that narrative. It's crumbling. Tom Cruise's comedic roast may have lasted seconds.
We've built a beautiful life. We have two healthy, beautiful children. That's my husband. He's just out there just constant, like he's just going to do whatever he can to make sure that our family is safe. And
Kern Lima can sit there and say, I'm going to ask you the difficult questions, but nothing about your father.
But its consequences will echo far longer. Meghan's podcast, her reputation, even her future in Hollywood, have all taken a direct hit. And judging by the audience reaction, this isn't just a celebrity spat, it's a cultural rejection. Meghan Markle won, seen as a breath of fresh air, is now becoming the butt of the joke. If Tom Cruise's savage takedown of Meghan Markle on The Late Show was the first strike, what came next was a total collapse. The media backlash is intensifying. Her feminist allies are abandoning ship, and industry veterans are exposing what they call Meghan's fraudulent activism.
see how selfish the love is, and that they need a note so they can, get the tears or whatever. Like, it feels so Oprah. It's a little bit ridiculous and very
letter from your husband and your kid.
What was meant to be a triumphant return to relevance has turned into a mortifying referendum on her credibility, and the verdict is in Hollywood. The public, and even her once loyal base, are done pretending. When even prominent feminists begin distancing themselves, it's clear the damage is irreversible. Gloria Steinem. Yes, the same. Gloria, Meghan once named, dropped in interviews, recently gave an interview with MSNBC while never mentioning Meghan by name. She made a biting observation. Feminism isn't a performance. It's not about broadcasting your struggle.
Look at her friendships, especially I want to say her friendship with Jessica Mulroney. Like, Mulroney's children, all three of them were in Meghan's wedding. Her sons held Meghan's veil, and now she no longer talks to her over a stupid social media, which one it was. And as far as we're aware, they don't speak, they don't see each other.
And especially when it's curated from a position of luxury. This was interpreted by many as a veiled shot at Meghan's podcast, which has been widely criticized for centering her personal grievances while ignoring real systemic issues faced by women without multi-million-dollar homes or Spotify deals even. Chimamanda Ngozi, the Nigerian author Meghan once claimed inspire her activist journey, has remained conspicuously silent when asked in a panel discussion whether celebrities are helping or hurting modern feminism. Addie responded.
Let's take a look at this little reel that Meghan dropped on Instagram yesterday morning.
What do we think, Lily?
I think it's beautiful.
I have two theories. One, I think that's a voiceover artist, like, Pamela Adlon.
Some people confuse attention with impact. Ouch. And it's not just feminist voices raising the red flags. Media experts and podcast professionals are now publicly questioning whether Confessions of a Female Founder was ever meant to succeed, or if it was simply another. Meghan Markle Vanity Project. Podcast consultant Eric Newsom, co-founder of Magnificent Noise and former NPR executive, told the Wall Street Journal, "There's no journalistic backbone, no editorial structure, and no authenticity. It sounds like it was produced in a vacuum, insulated from real feedback and storytelling standards." Meanwhile,
Ridiculous. And conversating is like moving a boulder up a mountain. It is impossible.
And then you look at her own family. She doesn't talk to her own family except for her mother and maybe her niece, although we haven't heard a lot about her niece recently, so maybe.
Forbes tech contributor Kristen Netton slammed the show's branding, writing, "You can't market authenticity. You either have it or you don't. Meghan doesn't. This is the Achilles heel of Meghan's media strategy. While she cloaks her projects in the language of empowerment, they lack the real-world grit, diversity of thought, and vulnerability that make podcasting resonate. Instead, confessions feel sterile, stage-managed, and above all, inauthentic, even worse. Most episodes feature Meghan interviewing her inner circle of hand-picked guests, offering no meaningful debate, disagreement, or real insight. It's not confessions. It's echo chamber therapy for the ultra-privileged. The final nail in the coffin. Even Meghan's biggest corporate partners are quietly stepping back after the collapse of the Archetypes podcast. Spotify already parted ways with Meghan and Harry in 2023, citing a failure to meet productivity standards. Now, insiders at Netflix are reportedly reevaluating their remaining contracts with Archwell Productions. A senior Netflix executive anonymously told Business Insider, "They overpromise and underdeliver. The content just isn't strong enough to compete. No one wants another lecture from Meghan Markle." There's also growing resentment among staffers about Meghan's creative control, according to multiple sources. She insisted on full editorial oversight, rejecting any suggestions that might challenge or complicate her narrative. The result: sterile content, shallow interviews, and tanking viewer interest. A recipe for irrelevance. What's worse, Netflix has already started quietly promoting other female-led entrepreneurial stories like Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine and sidelining Meghan's series in internal pitches. Meghan isn't just being rejected by the public, she's being replaced with Tom Cruise, leading the mockery, feminist icons turning away, and industry titans closing the door. Meghan Markle's podcast disaster isn't just a PR blunder, it's a warning shot. The public has had enough of curated victimhood, disguised as empowerment, and Meghan, she's running out of allies, excuses, and microphones. If Tom Cruise's brutal takedown wasn't enough. What's even more telling is the eerie silence now surrounding Meghan Markle. Her phone isn't ringing, her inbox isn't lighting up. Hollywood, it seems, has moved on, and in many cases, turned against her. Oprah Winfrey, who hosted the infamous 2021 interview, has reportedly cooled the relationship sources close to Oprah's Harpo Productions. Told Page 6, Oprah gave them a platform, but now she won't risk her credibility again. Then there's Tyler Perry. Once praised for offering them a home and security, he's remained completely silent during Meghan's recent media. Implosions, no public statement, no social media defense, nothing. Even Ellen DeGeneres, who once called Meghan a breath of fresh air, has unfollowed her on social media. adding fuel to the speculation that Meghan's support system is disintegrating from within, and perhaps most damning of all, Beyoncé's camp once used as social proof of Meghan, Star Power reportedly declined an invitation to collaborate with Arch. Well, an insider told Variety, they don't want the drama. Meghan's brand is considered high risk. Once surrounded by A-list allies, Meghan Markle now finds herself increasingly isolated, professionally, publicly, and personally, as Hollywood begins to shut the door. The question now isn't what Meghan will produce next, but whether anyone will even care. Meghan Markle's attempts to rebrand herself as a media mogul have been nothing short of disastrous, and the public isn't buying it. Her much-hyped podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, aimed to showcase entrepreneurial women, but quickly fell flat. Criticized for its shallow content and awkward interviews. Ratings tanked and reviews slammed. Meghan's lack of authenticity and preparation. Netflix is with love. Meghan also failed to impress viewers or critics. Industry insiders say the show was rushed and lacked the depth. Meghan promised after massive backlash, its future is uncertain. More importantly, Meghan's public image took another hit when high-profile figures like Cruz openly mocked her podcast on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, exposing her vulnerabilities on a global stage. It's clear, Meghan's media ventures aren't resonating, leaving her isolated and increasingly irrelevant. The royal exit saga is far from over, but the public is moving on.